The Reamer stood in the abandoned York County prison, the creaking doors echoing through the halls like a haunting melody, while the distant thunder rumbled outside, casting an ominous shadow over the crumbling structure. The air was thick with a putrid smell, a pungent mix of dirt, human waste, and decay that seemed to cling to every surface, making his stomach churn with revulsion. The walls, once a dull gray, were now a grimy brown, stained with the residue of years of neglect. The peeling paint hanging from the walls like tattered banners, revealing patches of faded institutional green beneath. Rats scurried through the shadows, their beady eyes glowing in the faint light that seeped through the boarded-up windows, while cockroaches crawled over every surface, their antennae twitching as they searched for food, the sound of their scurrying feet echoing through the deserted corridors. The Reamer's eyes adjusted to the darkness, and he made his way to the cell where Ted lay, his footsteps echoing off the walls. The rusty hinges of the cell door creaked as he pushed it open, the sound like a scream in the silence. Earlier that day, the Reamer had snuck into Seatown, a local grocery store, through a ventilation shaft on the roof, navigating through the darkness to find something to eat. He had stolen a package of spoiled meat, past its expiration date and reeking of decay. The Reamer thought he could use it to help Ted, to give him something to eat, maybe perk him up a bit. He didn't really care about Ted's well-being, but he figured it couldn't hurt to try. The Reamer cooked the meat in a small pan over a candle flame, the sizzling sound filling the dark cell. The smell of decay and spoilage wafted through the air, mingling with the stench of Ted's diarrhea and vomit. Ted had been struggling with a C. diff infection, his body weakened by the bacterial infection that had taken hold in his gut. The C. diff had caused severe diarrhea, and the smell of it wafted through the air, a sickeningly sweet and acidic scent that seemed to cling to Ted's skin and clothes. The diarrhea had a thick, gloopy texture, and its smell was like a mix of rotten eggs and decay, making the Reamer's stomach turn. As Ted vomited, the smell of stomach acid and half-digested food filled the air, a pungent and overwhelming stench that seemed to hang in the air like a fog. The Reamer handed Ted the spoiled meat, saying, "Eat this, it'll help you feel better." Ted looked at the meat suspiciously, his eyes narrowing as he took in the smell. "What's this?" he asked, his voice weak and laced with suspicion. "Just eat it," the Reamer replied, his voice devoid of emotion. Ted hesitated, but his hunger got the better of him. He took a bite, and the Reamer watched as his face contorted in disgust. At first, the Reamer thought maybe he had made a mistake, but as he watched Ted's body begin to convulse, he just shrugged. "Oh well, guess that didn't work out." Ted's eyes flashed with hatred and pain, but the Reamer just sat there, watching him suffer. He didn't seem to care that the meat was bad or that Ted was getting sicker. The Reamer's expression remained indifferent, his eyes fixed on Ted's body as it convulsed and contorted in agony. The smell of decay and spoilage wafted through the air, mingling with the stench of Ted's diarrhea and vomit, creating a potent and nauseating odor that seemed to cling to every surface. As the minutes ticked by, Ted's convulsions intensified, his body shaking violently as he vomited and defecated uncontrollably. The Reamer watched with a detached curiosity, his eyes never leaving Ted's body. He didn't try to help Ted or ease his suffering. Instead, he just sat there watching him with a cold, calculating gaze. Ted grasped the Reamer's arm, his fingers digging deep into his skin, his eyes pleading for mercy. "Help me, Reamer, for fuck's sake, please," he begged, his voice hoarse with desperation, his words slurred and incoherent. The Reamer shook his arm free, his expression unyielding. "You're on your own, Ted," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "You should have thought of that before you crossed me." Ted's eyes flashed with hatred, but he was too weak to respond, his body racked with pain and convulsions. The Reamer stood up, his movements slow and deliberate, his eyes never leaving Ted's body. He felt a pang of hunger, a growling emptiness in his stomach,